There's a specific question that has inspired and also frustrated people for many years now. What is art? Usually thought of in the context of patterns in culture, maybe science could give us a new perspective and answer to this burning creative question. Art usually involves some sort of creativity, imagination. It needs a medium like paint or even the internet, and is an attempt to elicit some sort of thought-provoking or emotional response, I think. You see, there are infinite ways to define art, but most of the time it is a human expression that's created by your brains. To be good at art, you need to appeal to tastes and trends which constantly evolve and can be really hard to follow. To be successful at art, much like business, you have to be in the know and appeal to people who have a certain agency of power. Many artists have to work for a gallery, for a curator, and a lot of that internal expression gets sucked out when they have to do all this work for other people. But again, at its core, everything is happening in your brain. The artistic process, much like the scientific process, involves research, hypothesis, experimentation, analysis, and in many cases, starting over because something hasn't worked. And as science progresses, maybe it can give us a unique answer to what art is. For example, maybe certain neurons or brain regions are in control of genuine artistic expression. So when those regions are firing, art is being made. But when those regions aren't firing, you know that art is not being made. In this case, you could actually define when art is being created. Or perhaps creativity is genetic. Maybe specific genes code for proteins and create a pathway that actually leads to genuine artistic expression. So, is artistic talent taught, or maybe it's genetic? Either way, science has not progressed far enough to answer the question of what is art right now. It's also frustrating to see such little overlap between science and art. A lot of the times you can hear artists saying they don't understand science or they don't get math, and also a lot of scientists or mathematicians could also say, I don't understand art, I could never do it. Education is power for both of these fields. And so, to inspire you, here's an example of some amazing ways in which people overlap science and art. Stelarc is a crazy artist who actually got a cell-cultured ear put onto his arm. He did this in an attempt to make people start to think about how science and technology is getting smaller and smaller, and eventually it will become part of our physiology. Another one of my favorite pieces of art is called Spiral Jetty by Smithson. He takes mud and basalt and salt crystals and makes this huge spiral in a lake. What it represents is that the lake and the waves will eventually take over the sculpture. It will disappear completely, but it's talking about entropy and how Earth is eventually moving towards chaos. Another awesome blend of technology and art is Jon Rafman's work, where he uses Google Street View, goes around, looks at stuff, but then he actually finds interesting things that are happening, snapshots them, and then when you look at them as photographs, they're really beautiful, and you kind of forget that you could have done it yourself and just gone on Google Street View and taken the photo. Another amazing blend of science and art is Hiorn's work, where he takes copper sulfate crystals and he allows them to grow over different objects. And in one case, he made it grow over a whole flat in London, and you can see it there, and it's pretty crazy. Alexis Rockman does paintings of the near future, after climate change started to take over or genetic engineering, and he plays with a lot of these sci-fi ideas and creates crazy paintings like this one here, SeaWorld, which is horrifying. Bjork, my baby. It's hard for me to like sum up. Bjork amazingly combined music and technology and science in her app called Biophilia. So she released her album as a series of apps where you could play with them, for example, virus. You would have to let the viruses overtake the cell in order for the song to continue. So it was a way of educating people about science, allowing people to physically participate in science while listening to her amazing music. Perfect example of art and science working. So let me know, who are your favorite artists, or who are some people who you know who are combining art and science? Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to ASAP Thought.